Hi, this is Frank Buck, and this is the place to be if you want to get organized and make it look easy. This one is for college students, and we're going to talk today about how to take great notes. In colleges all across the country, a new academic year is about to begin. In some ways, it will be a very different year from any of us have ever experienced. Yet in other ways, students will face the same challenges that I did as a freshman decades ago. Professors will give lectures and students will be tested on their mastery of the material. That's just the way it goes. But the difference between an A and an F is often a good set of notes from which to study. What you're about to hear isn't a rehash of the Cornell method or using some special paper or pens. It's actually much simpler than any of that. Here's the point I want you to remember. Class notes are a draft. Whether in person or through a Zoom meeting, professors don't lecture in outline form. And as far as the much repeated advice to include the most important things in your notes, those decisions are often difficult to determine in the heat of the moment. Sometimes a story is nothing but a bird walk. Other times the details of the story that the professor is telling compromise the heart of the lesson, and determining which is which isn't always possible until the end of the class session. So, get the information down on paper. Spelling doesn't count. Neatness doesn't count. Outline form doesn't count. What counts is trapping all of it on paper. Notice I said on paper. I'm a very digital person, but when it comes to trapping large amounts of raw information delivered in a non-stop fashion, I'll go with paper. Let's spin straw into gold. The magic happens later in the day. It happens when you sit down in a quiet place with the notebook, the text, and the draft notes you took in class. Here is where the A student makes decisions about what was important and what was not. Here, outline form becomes important. Spelling becomes important. This is the point where the A student turns to the textbook or to Google and clarifies anything that didn't make sense that was in that draft. It's basically taking and recopying those notes or keying those notes into a computer, now in a nice, neat fashion. So that what now happens to that draft is it goes in the trash can, and what goes in the student's notebook is pristine. Those notebooks are clear and logical, the notes in that notebook are. The process has given the A student a chance to interact with the material a second time, and that's huge. Research tells us that most forgetting happens within the same day. So if that student takes the notes in class, comes back with that draft, redoes them the same day, puts them in a pristine fashion, that student has interacted with the material the same day, forgetting lessons. All right, now it's time to study. Now you may say, well, Frank, doesn't revising that draft take time? Well, sure it does, but the A student recoups that time plus a bunch more. You see, now it's not going to take as much time to study. The student interacted with that material a second time in the straw into gold exercise, so less is forgotten. Less time is needed for review, and because the notes are clear, they're easy to understand, and the story the notes tell makes sense. So, what happens to that notebook when the class is over? Well, the notes that earned an A in this class continue to pay dividends. They earned an A on the test and another A on the final, resulting in an A in the class, but there's more. When the student applies to graduate school, a standardized exam is usually one of those hurdles. The university may also have its placement test of its own and require extra coursework for those whose score doesn't quite meet the threshold. So those pristine notes from undergraduate courses provide the perfect study material. Many graduate classes are just really an extension of their undergraduate parallels. I mean, let's face it, history majors are going to continue to study many of the same people and the same events, and the notes from one class serve as a starting point for other classes. So, simple tip for you. The notes that you take during class serve as a draft. That one simple principle served me well through more courses and more degrees than I care to count. It'll do the same for young people going down that road today. Thanks for stopping by. This has been Frank Buck, helping you get organized and make it look easy.